The definition of substitution method. One way to solve systems of equations is by substitution. In this method, we will be solving an equation with one variable, then substitute that solution with another equation, then solve. That is the definition of substitution. And we will be teaching you substitution in systems of equations. And our plan today is to teach you how to solve these systems of equations with substitution and help you understand the difference between them all. We will be working with substitution equals an expression, substitution equals a number, and substitution that looks like elimination but can be solved with the substitution method. In our first math process, we'll be looking at substitution equals a number, probably the simplest part of substitution in systems of equations. Now, what are we going to use to demonstrate this? Well, what about y plus x equals 22 and y equals 15? Now, how would you solve something like this? Now, we would want to look at y equals 15. Now, the reason why is because we already have a little bit of an answer to the problem. We already know what y equals. So let's put that in. 15 plus x equals 22. Now, how would we get x? We don't know what x is. We want to put it by itself. Now, the way we do this is by canceling out 15 and subtracting that with 22. Now, the reason why is because anytime you do something to one side of the problem, well, if you do an operation to one side of an equation, you have to do it to the other side. So if you were going to subtract 15 by 15 to cancel it out, you would need to subtract 15 by 22 as well. And that will give you 7. And what is left? X. So I bet x equals 7. Now, how will we know if our answers are correct? We would substitute that into our equation. So let's put 15 for y plus 7 for x equals 22. And it works. 22 minus 15 is 7. And 15 plus 7 is 22. So our equation is correct. Math process 2. Substitution equals an expression. We will be using y plus x equals 12 and y equals x minus 4 as an example. Now, before we were doing simple substitution equals a number, and now we're doing substitution equals an expression. Now, this might be a little bit more difficult since we're going to have to use a little bit more distribution, since we didn't do that prior. So let's first substitute x minus 4 for y. Since it says y equals x minus 4, that's where it's supposed to go. So we do x plus x minus 4 equal 12. Now what we're going to do here is that we're going to add these two x's to make 2x. This is our first little bit of distribution. Minus 4 equals 12. Now we want to put x by itself, so we subtract 4 by 4, and as we are doing something to one side of an equation, we do it to the other. So we subtract 4 from 12. Well, not subtraction, add. Since it's a negative. Now we're left with 2x equals 16. Now we would divide by 2, and the reason why is so we can put x by itself, since it still has 2 next to it. Divide both by 2, and we're left with x equals 8. Now the next thing we do is this. We use this whole equation down here, since we've already used this one. And now we know what x is, so we do y equals 8 minus 4. Now, what's 8 minus 4? That's 4, of course. And that's what y equals. Now we put that in for the whole entire problem. So for y, we put in 4. For x, we put in 8. And it all equals 12. And that's how you solve substitution equals expression. Math process 3. Substitution that looks like elimination but solved with substitution method. This is the hardest version of substitution, and it might confuse most people when first seen because it looks like an elimination problem. Now this is the problem we're going to be doing. 2x minus 3y equals negative 2. And 4x plus y equals 24. Now we're going to deal with the positive line because it's a lot easier and it's going to make our lives easier. So we're going to set it up again for x plus y equals 24. But we want to single out this x, so we're going to subtract it by itself. I'm going to put that over here as well, since if you do something to one side, you have to do it to the other. And it's left with y equals 24 minus 4x. Now it's going to become y equals 4x plus 24. And what we're going to do there is going to substitute it for the y that's up here. So now it's going to become 2x minus 3 times 4x plus 24. That all equals to negative 2. Now this is going to come out to be 14x minus 72. That equals negative 2. Now in order for us to get rid of the 72, to leave x alone, I'm going to make that positive, cancel itself out, make this positive, and now we're going to be left with 14x equals 70. Now we divide 14 by itself to make this x alone, same thing with 70. And we're going to be left with x equals 5. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to get a little bit more space. Erase this real quick. Now you can always go back and see what I've done, because it's a video. And we're going to use this newly found information that x equals 5 and substitute it into the problem. So now we're going to do 2 times 5 minus 3, which is y. We haven't solved y yet, so we're going to leave that there, equals negative 2. Now that's where that belongs. Now the next thing that we're going to do is try to find out what's y. Now what are we going to do for y? So we're going to figure out that this is 10 minus 3y equals negative 2. Now what can we do here? We can subtract 10 from itself, make this gone, and subtract this from 10, and you get negative 12. So we get negative 3y here equals negative 12. And we divide that by itself, negative 3, and you're left with y equals 4. Now I'm going to erase this again. Like I said, this is a video. If you need to go back, you can. Fortunately, I have a limited space. Now we're going to input our newly found data that y is equal to 4 and put it into the whole entire problem. So we're going to do 2 times 5 minus 3 times 4 equals negative 2. Now that would be 10 minus 12. And I'm pretty sure that is equal to negative 2. In conclusion, in the general main way to solve these problems are to first substitute, then distribute. And that alone can sometimes completely solve the problem. Like in substitution equals a number problem. The validity has been stated throughout the whole program, but can be summarized here in one main way. To see that your answer is true is to substitute that answer into the equation. And this act is the only way substitution problems can be checked and maybe even corrected if wrong. I hope you enjoyed my program, and peace. And tell Mr. Atkinson that he's a cool teacher.